Yep, go ahead.
Waiting for the thing out there.
Oh.
You're good.
All right. We'll call the Shakopee City Council meeting for December 5th, 2023 to order. If we could please take the roll.
Councilmember Delaney.
Here.
Councilmember Whiting is absent. Councilmember Contreras.
Here.
Councilmember Lara.
Here.
Mayor Lehman.
Item number 2, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda from council or staff?
Nothing from staff, sir.
Mr. Lara?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there motion by Mr. Lara, seconded by Mr. Delaney to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, consent business. Any changes to the consent business, council or staff?
Nothing from staff, sir.
Council? None on Mr. Contreras?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent business.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Reynolds will read the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the consent agenda items for December 5th of 2023. 4A1 approves city council minutes. 4A2 approves a THC license for Van Campbell Incorporated doing business as Southside Liquor. 4A3 approves on-sale and Sunday liquor licenses for Mr. Taco LLC. 4A4 approves tobacco license renewals for 2024. 4A5 approves THC license renewals for 2024. 4A6 approves taxicab business license renewals for 2024. 4A7 is the closing of the Lions Park Capital Projects Fund. 4A8 closes the TIF District Number 10 Capital Projects Fund. 4A9 closes the TIF District Number 16 Capital Projects Fund. 4A10 are updates to the Personnel Handbook regarding employee sick and safe time. 4A11 is the resignation of Jay Tobin as the Director of Parks and Recreation. 4A12 is the Minnesota Department of Human Services Age-Friendly Minnesota Grant Expansion Application. 4B1 is a grant application for regional solicitation, and 4C1 is the final plat of Arbor Bluff.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 5, recognition of involved residents by the City Council for an item not on the agenda. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to us on an item not on the agenda tonight? Anybody? Okay. Item number 6, business removed from consent. There is none. Item number 7, 7A, public hearing 2024 budget and property tax levy public hearing presentation. Mr. Lara.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Councilor Lara, seconded by Councilor Contreras. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. Mr. Reinhardt.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. So tonight we have our public meeting on the 2024 recommended budget and property tax levy. Just wanted to start out with a few overlying comments on the 2024 budget before getting into the details. The city continues to grow. We've seen 8% growth in taxable market value over the past year, including $182 million from new construction. Preliminary budget and assessment data shows the tax rate will continue to decrease. We continue to be one of the lowest tax communities in the state. Out of 100 cities in Minnesota with a population of 10,000 or more, our tax rate is the 13th lowest. Residential will see a decrease in their property taxes. The median value home will see a decrease of $54 or 5.6%. And this budget provides an investment in public safety, including the addition of 2 patrol officers, which are the first new officers in the last 5 years. As mentioned on the previous slide, the city of Shakopee continues to be one of the lowest tax communities in the metro area. There are 32 cities in the metro with a population between 25,000 and 100,000. Each dot on this chart shows or represents those cities and the taxes paid on a $300,000 home. Shakopee is the red dot on the chart, which is significantly below that average trend line that you see there on the chart. The city annually adopts a budget and property tax levy for the upcoming year. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide the public with information on the city's 2024 proposed budget and 2024 proposed property tax levy, and allows the general public a chance to comment on the proposed budget and tax levy prior to their adoption. I did put a pie chart on here that shows the breakdown of property taxes based on the preliminary levies for the homeowner here in Shakopee. The portion we're discussing tonight is the city levy, which is 25.8% of the property taxes paid. So about 25% of your property tax bill goes to fund city operations. We don't have any influence or control over the property taxes that get paid to the county or the school district. Similar to assessed values, those values are determined by the county. Again, no influence over assessed values. So if you believe your home value is too high or too low, that's a conversation you would need to have with the county.
Mr. Reinhardt?
Yes.
I think what we'll do for council, in case there's questions, we'll just ask that people ask them questions as we go instead of trying to remember them until the end, okay?
That works for me, yep.
If we go back to the first slide of 182 million, 8% growth, do we know what portion of that 182 million is TIF development?
So this will be your taxable market value. So that would be. Short answer is no. I mean, I could take a look at that and see if I can get those numbers for you. But
okay, because the valuation that from a TIF district improvement goes into the total tax capacity, but it's not. We don't receive the revenue into the general fund through the levy. That revenue comes in the levy and tax levy and then goes back into the project.
Yeah, there's slight correction to what you said. It'll be part of the taxable market value, but it'll actually be subtracted out of tax capacity, just to be completely transparent.
Since it's in the total market value and then you take the total levy into the total market value, doesn't that lower the tax rate even though you're not collecting any revenue from it for the general fund?
No, so it wouldn't be part of that because it would take it out of that tax capacity amount, so it would not be part of your tax rate. But if it were to be included in that tax capacity, then your tax rate would lower as a result of having that market value in. So I think that's what you were getting at.
Okay. Mr. Delaney?
I have a question. As far as the 2 additional patrol officers, I think we got a wonderful public safety officers as far as our police department. So this is being funded out of a one-time grant. So next budget year, we'll actually be paying this on the levy.
Yeah, so that is correct. So I have another slide that kind of talks about the specific adjustments. But what we're proposing is the two additional patrol officers would be 100% covered out of that public safety dollars for 2024, and then in 2025 would reduce that to be half funded out of those public safety funds.
Continue. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think I do have an answer to your previous question after I had a chance to think about it. So when we did our long-term financial plan, I did have a graph in there that talked about kind of the adjustment to market value that goes into TIF districts. I think it's roughly about 4%.
Okay.
So 4% of whatever taxable market value would be. So there were several steps that city staff and city council have taken to get us up to this point, including meetings on the city's long-term financial plan, capital improvement plan, and budget. The city also hosted a budget listening session open to the public at the beginning of the process to get input. The preliminary levy was adopted on September 19th. Per state statute, the final levy, which is being discussed tonight, cannot be greater than that preliminary levy. Our 2024 proposed budget was developed on overlying financial objectives of both City Council and administration. We do believe that the budget being presented tonight meets City Council and administration objectives, which include continuing to be one of the lowest tax communities in the metro, continuing to grow our tax capacity of existing and new property, and achieve the City Council's adopted strategic priorities. We'll continue to be transparent and make decisions with a future mind to ensure the city's ongoing ability to provide quality services at a reasonable price. As we've gone through the budget process, we've continued to update our website with budget information. Our full budget book, which is very detailed, is available on the website. And then always mention our taxpayer tool receipt remains available as well. That'll be updated in March when we get the final tax rates. But it's a great tool if anybody wants to see exactly what their property taxes are being spent on. One slide here to just touch base on residential property values, just to provide overall context. Total residential taxable market value increased by 0.9%. Absent of new construction, residential value would have seen a small decrease based on the assessment data. Changes in values of existing residential properties were generally minimal. 17% of homes saw an increase in value. 83% either saw no change or a decrease in value. And only 2% had a value change of greater than 5%. The city's tax capacity is adjusted for fiscal disparities program, which is unique to the 7-county metro area. 40% of our commercial and industrial growth since 1971 gets contributed into the pool, and in return, we receive a distribution based on population and market value of all property per person compared to the average market value per person in the metro area. We are one of the larger net contributors to this program. The 2023 data showed that we were 9th out of 179 communities. This chart shows that fiscal disparities net contribution in terms of tax capacity. With the growing industrial and commercial base we've seen in the city, it's gone from 2.1 million of tax capacity in 2015 to 6.7 million in 2024. And then just to put that in context of what that means as a percentage of total tax capacity, it's about 6.5% that we're contributing to the fiscal disparities program. Oops. The city levies a flat dollar amount for taxes, which is spread against all taxable properties in proportion to their percentage of total tax capacity of the city. Residential represents 46.6% of the city's tax capacity. The comparison to this chart from last year shows that residential properties will make up approximately 4.6% less of that total tax capacity. So this chart is in percentages, but it relatively works out the same if you want to think of it in terms of dollars. So for every dollar the city requests in property taxes, in 2023 they were paying, residential was paying 51%, where now they're paying 47%, or 47 cents per dollar. Staff is recommending a city levy of $25,473,000, which is an increase of $1,581,000, or 6.62% from last year, and a preliminary levy EDA levy of $500,000, which is flat from the previous year. There's no change from what was adopted from the preliminary levies in September. We are proposing to continue the $700,000 capital improvement levy. We are proposing decreases in the abatement and debt service levies. The council did approve a resolution in September to utilize existing fund balance to offset debt service. And then for context, when we talk about a 1% levy increase decrease, that amounts to about $239,000 in funding per year. Here's the summary of the 2024 general fund budget. Budget incorporates the general fund portion of the tax levy along with the budget impact items that I'll cover within this presentation. Public safety, which includes police, fire, building inspection, they make up the largest portion of our budget, which is about 46% of our operating budget. So here's a summary of the changes impacting the 2024 proposed levy. All of these I'll touch on in more detail as I go through. So overall, the city is anticipating a net increase in non-property tax revenue sources of $883,000, meaning of the operating increase, $883,000 is being paid for by revenues other than the property tax levy. This would include the $211,360 of public safety grants that would offset the cost of 2 patrol officers. and an anticipated increase in revenues from the pilot agreement with Shakopee Public Utilities, where the city receives 5.5% of total utility revenue. Tax abatement levy is required for all city-approved tax abatements. Effectively, the city increases the levy in amount equivalent to the increase in taxes paid for specific projects that meet the city's business subsidy policy requirements, such as job-related goals and wages. That levy will be reduced in 2024. One of the abatements is at its last year, and then another abatement is no longer meeting their requirements. So that net reduction would be about $139,000. We've received a Minnesota Department of Public Safety Traffic Safety Officer grant that pays the salary of an officer dedicated to impaired driving, which we've included in the budget. We've kept building permit revenues relatively flat from the 2023 budget, but did increase them by about $75,000. And then just the other two I wanted to mention is that we did increase community center and sand venture revenue projections for 2024.
Mr. Reinhardt, question. Why does the traffic safety officer grant money show up without parentheses, but yet the building official grant shows up with parentheses?
Oh, so the building official grant, so that expired at the end of last year. So that was the grant that we used to fund our building inspector training official. I might have pronounced the title, but we were able to add a position because it was a state-funded grant. That grant came to an end at the end of this year. So we no longer have that 35 or that revenue in there.
So the 35 and the 74.7 are not part of the 883 in this equation?
It's a reduction of revenues. So it's reducing our revenues by $35,000, where these are adding to the revenue.
Essentially, what we wanted to show is both the increases and decreases in our revenue streams that we have coming in.
Yes.
And so we have all of the increases noted, and then the last two are no longer there. The grant is no longer there, and the other adjustments were downgraded revenue streams.
Okay, so the question that I asked was, are them two items, which is roughly $100,000, included in the 883.60 number or not? I didn't take a calculator and do the whole chart.
Yes. If you added those numbers up, it would come to 883,160.
Okay, so we're including revenue that we don't have in revenue forecasting.
No, those are revenues that we are not getting. We wanted to make sure that you were aware we weren't getting them, and so those are not part of the 883.
Yeah, so out of the 883, some revenues went up, some revenues went down. In total, they net to 883.
Well, I guess maybe I'm confused because at the top it says net increase of 883, but if that's not correct, and
It is correct.
Yeah.
We have two revenue streams that are either extinguished or went down. The other being just general net adjustments. The other revenues that you see there have went up.
All right.
So between those two, we sum out to 883,160.
I'm still confused because if the two 35,000 and 74.7 are included in the 883 and they're not forms of revenue for the sake of the 24, because
they're included as deductions from our revenue stream from 2023. Everything else is included as additions to our revenue stream from 2023. So when we put it all together, we're left with an increase of 883,160. So you have to look at 2023 as the starting point. And then all of these here are increases, and the last two are decreases, which gets us to 883,160.
All right.
Yep, so just to clarify, this would be the net change from the 2023 budget. So the net change in revenue is 883,000 increase. And again, some revenues went up, some went down. But so moving on to the expenditure changes, like most other cities, our operational costs are being primarily driven by personnel, which represent about half of our expenditure increase. Wages and benefits account for nearly 70% of the city's general fund costs. The city has 3 unions, which is patrol, sergeants, and public works. All 3 union contracts are up for negotiations for beginning in 2024. The preliminary 2024 budget as it stands has been built with the assumption that the union and non-union wages will see an equivalent 3% cost of living adjustment. Across all the employee groups, the cost of living adjustment amounts to approximately $508,000. The city's health insurance rates will be increasing by 20.9% for 2024. Data shows a significant increase in our utilization over the past 24 months, which has impacted those rates. The city is proposing new staff positions, which include the 2 full-time patrol officers, which we discussed a little bit earlier. We have not added any sworn officers in the past 5 years. The request is based on the IACP formula, which takes in consideration the department workload. The funding would come from the city's allocation of one-time public safety funding, which would fund the cost of the positions in 2024 and then half of those positions in 2025. And then a full-time human resource specialist at a cost of $107,000. This position is necessitated by the increase in hiring processes, legislative changes, and implementation of a new software in 2024. Additionally, this position will provide administrative support to the city administrator and other members of the administration department. 2024 will be a presidential election year requiring the hiring of election judges. City will also need to comply with early voting requirements leading up to election days, which requires a pretty significant increase in hours for next year. Staff is also proposing a $1 increase in the election judges from $14 to $15 for head judges, and then $11 to $12 for election judges. The net impact for the election year is about $109,000. The fire department supervisor positions, which there were 3 of them, were budgeted to be implemented on July 1st of 2023. The 2024 budget recognizes the full year for those, which would be a net increase of $103,000. Those positions are currently open as of today. And then lastly, Park and Recreation have implemented numerous staffing changes over the past couple of years. This includes moving part-time positions to full-time, changes in various program offerings. So part-time hours have been reevaluated as a result, and then based on anticipated needs for 2024, we can further reduce part-time hours in the net amount of $112,000.
And to be clear, what that is a reduction in the overall Park and Recreation part-time employees.
And then I listed operating adjustments that are anticipated to continue in future years. They're all shown here on the slide. For electric, motor fuels, and natural gas, we did adjust the 2023 budget up for these, but we're still tracking behind. So we are proposing increases for these items in 2024. The county prosecution costs, software costs, custodial, assessing, and are all contractual cost increases. So generally speaking, these are primarily our contracted services or utility increases. The city utilizes internal service funds to accumulate funds for the purchase and replacement of city equipment and facilities. The funding source are annual rents, which are basically internal charges to the appropriate departments. The equipment rent increase is both a result of new equipment being added to the schedule as well as just an overall approximate 10% increase in vehicles and equipment. A 20-year equipment replacement schedule is included in the 5-year capital improvement plan that identifies all the general fund equipment, useful life replacement years, and costs. The increase in building rent is based on the estimated construction cost of Sand Venture. The rents have been adjusted to reflect the future replacement of Sand Venture, as well as the internal borrowing needed to cover the cost of construction. The net general impact of rent charges in comparison to the 2023 budget is $376,000. Then one-time adjustments, general fund up and down swings are typically moderated through the use of our internal rent charges for our equipment and other facilities. However, a couple of one-time adjustments have been included in the budget. These costs will not be reoccurring in the future budget, the large one being the one-time implementation cost of the new ERP system, which encompasses all of finance and HR functions.
Quick question on that. I've maybe already got that answer before, but the ERP software implementation cost, why would that not come out of that I guess the fee you're paying in yearly from each of the departments to cover IT.
Yeah, so typically when we've had department-specific software, we've added it to the department budgets. It's only if there's something that's all-encompassing of all departments. That doesn't mean, this quasi fits that realm. But for example, things like our servers, our phone system, those are the things that we've typically had in that.
Thanks.
And then as a placeholder in the budget, city has included an additional $165,000. It's assumed that, as the year goes through 2024, we'll allocate these unknowns to a known. This amount is being set aside for legislative impacts. There's numerous changes this year that will impact the city, and then union negotiations, which are currently unknown. But at this point in time, we need to set our levy before we probably will have those amounts known. And then fund balance assignments. Last year we used $126,000 of fund balance. This year, council has set aside $200,000 to help offset operational costs related to Sand Venture. Ultimately, this lowers the amount of property tax that we need to levy. The debt service levy was set to increase actually with last year's budget as a result of our 2022 GO improvement bond issue. That required debt service levy is about $347,000. To offset that increase in the debt service levy, last year we transferred $200,000 from the local projects fund to effectively be able to step into that debt service over a 2-year period. However, this year, council approved the setting aside of an additional $226,000 of year-end fund balance to help defray that cost for one more additional year. The only other levy-funded debt issue is the 2016 abatement bond, which funded the community center and the ice arena, and we're not proposing a change to that levy. Council has approved debt service levy reductions to use available fund balance for both of these debt service levies. So at tonight's EDA meeting, the EDA will be asked to approve a $500,000 levy, which is no change from last year. The levy requires council approval as well. The EDA, I'll kind of just sum this up shortly since this will be part of the EDA presentation later, but the EDA levy has a statutory authority to issue a levy that's based on the percentage of market value of the city. Ultimately, that calculates out to $1,334,000 as the maximum levy. So this is far below that cap. And again, we're not proposing any change to the EDA levy from the preliminary levy or last year's levy. This chart is comparing the city's tax capacity and tax rate over the past 10 years, including the 2024 recommended levy. Based on assessment value data, the proposed tax levy will decrease the city's tax rate from 28.585 excuse me, to 27.704, which continues the trajectory of decrease in tax rate over the past decade. This chart provides the median value home and the city property taxes paid on that home since 2019. The value of the median value home has decreased from $346,500 to $338,400 over the past year, which is about a 2.6% or $8,100 decrease. For the median value home, this equates to a decrease of $54 or 5.6% annually in their property taxes. Absent any change in value, the median value home would see about a $30 or a 3.1% decrease. And then for reference, again, when we talk about a 1% property tax levy increase, decrease, in terms of property tax dollars, it's amounts to about $9 annually on the median value home. So, and that gives you a little bit of a perspective. So tax impact, it's going to be completely different on every single home depending on where their value changes, right? But this provides a comparison of the tax change for a home valued in the 25% quartile, the median value in the 75%. Again, this considers the market value change from the previous year as well. A $264,000 home could expect about a $41 decrease, and then a $433,000 home could expect about a $69 decrease. So Shakopee is below comparable in surrounding cities when it comes to a cost comparison of city property taxes, sanitary sewer, and stormwater charges, so all the services that we provide. The following chart provides the 2023 annual cost of services. This is based on a $250,000 value home, so it's slightly below the median, and then 5,000 gallons of water usage a month, so about the typical amount. Staff anticipates proposing rate increases for each of the utility funds to help maintain, keep up with operational increases. Those rate increases would be in the range of 1% to 3%, and that would be part of the fee schedule being recommended at the next council meeting. But for a typical residential user, that would amount to about $5 annually in sewer charges and about $1 in surface water charges. So for Shakopee next year, we'd expect us to remain at the very bottom of this chart, and that total amount you see on the top would decrease for 2024. Just one slide in here on the budget calendar for reference, which I've kind of talked about this, what we've gone through up to this point. So this is a public meeting. Public is welcome to speak on the budget and or tax levy. After tonight's meeting, the budget and levy will come back to council approval on December 19th for final approval. So no actions required tonight other than invite the public up to speak. And I can stand for any questions you might have.
Questions of staff?
No questions.
Questions?
None here, yeah.
Anybody, is public hearing, is there anybody in the audience that would like to address us on this matter? 2024 proposed budget and levy? Step on up and welcome to the show. Anybody in the audience that would like to address us on the budget, 2024 budget and tax levy? I usually do that 3 times, so I guess I'll say it's the last call. All right, seeing none. Wishes of council, Mr. Lara?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close public hearing by Councilor Lara, seconded by Councilor Contreras. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. And there's no action needed from us at this time.
There is no action, but just for anybody who might be, listening or watching, we accept feedback at any point in time. So I know some people are intimidated to come to a public meeting like this. So if there's any comments anybody ever has, they can always reach out to myself or any
Well,
of us.
I shared my feedback with staff, and staff shared it with council. I'm always looking to save the taxpayers $1, even if it's only $1. I'd like to see the EDA levy lowered a little bit. I mean, it's pretty substantial. We'll get into that in EDA meeting. The software purchase, it's kind of unexpected. I kind of thought it would be in the IT fund myself, as Councilor Delaney said. We could pay that over 5 years. That would lower a little bit of the levy and stretch it out, and I would assume that the software is going to last longer than 5 years, knock on wood, hopefully, right? And then I don't know how to deal with the building permits that we collect money from to pay for the services rendered, but we're not allowed to use them revenues to pay for them services rendered. It's kind of a rarity for me in government to hear that.
Well, technically, that's not correct. We do use them for that. It's just the timing of when they're used.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're collecting them in November and December, and we're providing the service in January and February or March, the people that are providing that services are being paid from the budget, 24 budget levy, tax levy, their wages and insurance and benefits and stuff. And my mind is saying that portion of that service should be paid for out of the collection of the 23 revenue. That's what I'm saying.
And I do not disagree with you.
I don't know how to get there.
I have made this argument, I think, over the last 5 or 6, 7 years at this point. Essentially, if we were to do that, we would be considered not to have a balanced budget. And that's fine. But what happens then if we start losing large portions of building revenues, then we will have to make those up in preceding years, and that could put us in a pinch. I get that, but I do not disagree with you at all, Mr. Mayor. I've always been an advocate for that, and
So,
Government accounting practices are different.
This can't be a new problem. How do other cities manage their building permits? Is similar manner, or is there something we're missing? Or
No, it has to be done the same way. It's government accounting principles. If we have a revenue that comes in 1 year, it has to be accounted for in that year. And again, I appreciate the conversation. I very much think that should be something that would not throw us out of a balanced budget, but it would.
so let me ask it this way. Do we have the capability to know what percentage of 23's permits are going into 24? So let's say, out of all the revenue and all the permits issued in 23 for the whole year, 15 or 16% are actually going to get serviced in. And I know you can't do that until the end of the year to actually find out, but it might be worth tracking in the future, because if you get a consistent number of 15, 16, 17% that are purchased in 23 and moving into 24 for the service side, you can make the pretty clear argument that's the portion that you want to consistently move.
You can certainly make that argument. We will be considered not to have a balanced budget, and if revenues fall precipitously the next year, we would have to make that up.
And we do it with the community center membership. We take the memberships if they buy a year membership, and it's prorated out into the next year. If it's purchased in June of 23, we're only capturing the first 6 months for 23 and the second 6 months into 24. So we are doing it, but I understand it's a different kind of fund. It is internal fund,
and it's something that we can definitely track and know.
Right.
Again, I very much am wanting to find a solution to this, but I think it. From my perspective, I do not disagree with you. I think the only thing I would worry about is if we have a decline in our permit revenue, then we're going to have to make that up, and it essentially will be double because we've added that in 1 year, and then we'll have to make it up in the following year plus whatever else is happening.
So in the future, any funds that are there that we can't use the following year, they're just going to sit there and be used only for that purpose if and when it happens in the future? I mean, it's not like we can take building fund revenue and use it for, building a pool or something.
No, we do not use it for anything else.
So it's going to sit there until we use it for something in the building permit area.
Mr. Reinhardt, you have clarification on that? I think that's right.
I mean, that's the intention. So right now we have a fund balance policy that was adopted by City Council that'll set aside a portion of our fund balance at the end of the year into a separate committed category for building permit revenues, with the idea that...
So that portion, where did we get that portion number from? Which is what I was trying to drive at the last question.
So it's based on a percentage of open permits at the end of the year, and that percentage of open permits that the percentage of revenues will differ depending on the month of the year. So if it's an open permit from June, it's a less of a percentage than if it was an open permit from December. So that's where that dollar amount is being derived from. So I almost think that if you wanted to revisit the subject, we could revisit that whole policy at a future council meeting and see if that's something you still want to do. Okay. But what ultimately it does is it'll carry forward that revenue to next year, and then if you don't have the same level of permits, that fund balance amount is going to be lowered, which then in turns, goes back into the general fund, or theoretically is being used by the building department to complete those permits.
All right. Okay. Any other questions and comments from council to staff?
quick question. I saw that our health insurance increased to go up 20.9% this year, and I know we had talked about pursuing a private insurance. Self-insurance. Will that become a reality next year, or what's kind of the time frame for that?
We don't have a time frame. What we do have currently in place is we're taking a look at with the county and all other cities in Scott County about having an insurance pool. We're going to conduct a study to see if that will be viable for all of us. The benefits of having a larger pool means it's less fluctuation and more stability. So all of the administrators from the various cities and the county administrators are excited about seeing, what this is going to look like. Now, there's no guarantees, but if we could find a way to harness that, which is essentially a self-insurance program run through the county, by the way. We already have those funds set aside to make that happen. The reason we didn't do it this year, my intent was to move forward to look very strongly at that, and our brokers came back and said this is exactly the wrong time to do it because of the height of our, which is counterintuitive to me, frankly, but they said it was exactly the wrong time because of the increase that we had on the books. So we're continuing to try to find solutions. I'm hopeful that the county regional health insurance pool, if you will, it's not officially called that, but I mean that's kind of what we're looking at, that will bring some stability and also bring our rates down. But again, we're in the process. We just Scale is leading that study.
I guess, guesstimate of exactly how much that would save us per year?
I have no idea, sir. Yeah. I mean, that's why we're bringing somebody in to crunch the numbers and take a look at it. Yeah, I don't know.
And even if they crunched the numbers and came up with some kind of a ballpark figure, depending on what happens in that particular market, you could be off a little bit one way or the other too. So
yeah, it obviously won't impact 2024's budget, but the good thing is that the county already has all the infrastructure in place. So if we come back and we look at it and we can get at least 2 or 3 other cities to join in, we can plug literally relatively quickly into what the county has in place, which is an excellent, we don't have to then design our own infrastructure. They already have that in place. They've been self-insured for decades, I think, at this point.
Are there any other cities in the area that have expressed interest as well?
We have not went out beyond Scott County. We're using Scale as the vehicle, but that's an interesting thought process. I think frankly, I hadn't thought of it. If we can get that preliminary results back, then we can shop that around to maybe some other communities that are close by and see if. Because the larger the pool, the better. Yeah,
but like in Scott County, it's like Savage. Like, yeah, that sounds great. Jordan, yep, that sounds good. Like, are you hearing?
Yeah, all of the administrators and managers in Scott County and the cities are all on board at this point. Everybody is very interested in moving forward with the study and to take a hard look at it. And
they're interested in moving forward with the study portion until they know what the findings are. It's really hard to go forward from there.
Now, I will say, and I may be speaking a little out of turn, which is not unusual for me on occasion, but Shakopee Public Utilities is also an organization that could very easily slide into that as well. I think I preliminary brought that up to the director. I'm not sure. I think I have. If I haven't, I will at our next meeting. But that's also another opportunity for them to take a look and, once we get those numbers and say, hey, this might work for us too.
So to put an answer to Councilor Delaney's question, should we expect sometime in the middle of 24 to have some kind of an update on this?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a reasonable time frame, and that's what we're working for. Because, again, if we can get this worked out and get the study completed, and then have it brought to all councils and in front of all the employees, my intent would be to bring it in and make it part of the 2025 budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good questions, good discussion. Anybody else on council got questions for staff?
None.
Okay. So let's see, where does that take us to? Takes us to item number 8, recess for Economic Development Authority meeting. Is there a motion? Mr. Delaney?
I was going to motion to go to our recess for Economic Development Authority meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Delaney, seconded by Lara. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We are not adjourned. We are recessed to economic development. I always say that wrong. Madam President, there you go. Thank you. All right, where are we? We are Item number 9, reconvene Shakopee City Council meeting. Item number 10, general business. None. Item 11, reports, city bill list. Any questions on the city bill list?
No questions.
Questions here?
Liaison and administrators report. Which side did you guys go with last time?
We're over here.
You can start. I was over here.
Sounds good. Okay, fun-filled 2 weeks here. 169 Coalition. I met with City of Savage's council member Bob Coughlin. He's been there 2 terms. He's also a member of 169. Talked to 169. Something fascinating was I didn't realize there was a Dan patch. I guess there was like a gag order. We couldn't talk about that, and we talked through. That blew my mind. That was a great discussion.
Only in America. Oh, wait, never mind.
But I think the gag order is only for the state legislators to discuss.
Yes,
Not-
you couldn't talk about it.
They can't, but we can. Right?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
That was a fun discussion, just going through that. Also, he had a lot of insight. He's been on 2 terms, city councils and other commissions, planning commission. As far as 169 Coalition, we had our annual meeting November 14th. At the annual meeting, we did present Commissioner John Ulrich with the Coalition Catalyst Award, recognition of his years of service. Next steps as far as action for the coalition. We're going to renew the coalition's insurance via LMC, determine a date and time for the legislative meet and greet in the spring coalition membership meeting, prepare the 2024 coalition meetings dues letter, so there should be a letter coming in for the dues coming up here around January, February, and pretty much schedule the next officer meeting. As far as SPUC had their annual end-of-year meeting, which is held at Canterbury, holiday/Christmas party, depending on how you want to call it there. Also, there will be the first Monday of each month, with the exception of a holiday. We'll move to the second Monday of each month. It'll also be on their calendar. And there's been a online bag fire hydrants. That's kind of taken the life of its own. That is done. It helps reduce the impact of the salt, but also it helps extend the life of the hydrant. And there will be a posting by SPUC on their website explaining exactly why and where and what for. Also got a question at one of the events I went to as far as low water pressure, and I did bring it up. If you are experiencing low water pressure, call SPUC. Have a number. You can also go online. They'll help you troubleshoot that, but they will also come out if need be. As far as community, 2 Christmas parties, Shakopee Holiday Fest, School Nuns of Notre Dame Craft Fair, which was outstanding. Really great crafts. A lot of Christmas shopping while I was over there. So. And also I was contacted by another group about Sports Dome. And I did mention, so the council is aware, that I can't speak for council, but I'll be happy to sit with coffee and talk about whatever. I'm trying to get those groups together. Right now, I think there's 3 groups in the area that did not know there was a presentation. One actually watched the presentation and said, I had all the answers that you guys are asking. And that's the intent of my meeting. Again, my disclaimer was I cannot speak for council, but I'm happy to meet for coffee. Yes.
You said 3 groups approached you?
Well, there's 3 I know of. One that came and presented. The other, who I'm meeting with tomorrow, is Kitso Moore. I don't know if you know him.
No.
Something with soccer.
Okay.
And I think the Somalian community was also asking about that.
That I heard.
Yeah. So those are.
Question regarding your hydrants. I saw someone made a comment asking about, is SPUC going to make available to have a point of contact if the citizen notices a hydrant not covered, they would like theirs covered. Can they reach out to SPUC to ask for that?
Definitely, yes.
Because I think someone said, hey, I saw this, but can I get mine covered?
Theirs was missed or something.
Yeah, so.
Apparently there's some kind of special plastic bag or something, too.
Yellow plastic.
Okay.
you.
Are you done?
I think that is all my excitement for the week, so yes.
Very good. Councilor Contreras.
I don't have one.
Mr. Lara.
Holiday Fest on Saturday. Great turnout. Good to see. Good job, Mr. Mayor, with your speech and getting that tree lit. Or was it you or Santa that flipped the switch?
Never going to say.
Well, the tree looks great. So, and heard lots of compliments. And went to the No Escape ribbon cutting last week. It's great to have a fun new business in town that provides alternative entertainment and a space for our community to gather. That's all I have.
Very good. It was Santa, by the way. My report's going to be just a little winded because I wasn't at the last meeting, but I'm going to just blow through it as quick as possible. November 9th, Scott County mayors met. We had no agenda. It was open discussion on any topic, and, every community's got its own little thing going on, so just kind of a cordial gathering. No major topics, really. Nice seeing them all. November 15th, met with City Gate, our city's fire consultant. 16th November, legislative update, Senator Pratt, Representative Tabke at the Shakopee Hampton Inn. Councilor Delaney was in attendance. I don't know if others were. May have been. November 17th, Saturday morning, I sat in on the Transportation Alliance's meeting, and that meeting topic was mostly about 212 and roads to our west, some a little north, 41 and 5. There's a project, part of 41, Bavaria Road, 41 and 5 intersection, and tying up with some of the stuff that Chaska did and Carver did down through Chaska. So that was kind of informative. 17th, Quarry Lake sign and benches from the Cub Scouts. I think Public Works did the bench install. Nice sign. Bench is pretty nice, and it's pretty cool to see the Boy Scout and his father, working together, the funding and stuff. So that was pretty cool. November 21st, Representative Craig neck up grant, $81,000 for police mental health. I stopped in just briefly for that. I wanted to say thank you to her. That same day, I had my sister's surgery. She's doing remarkably well. Thanks for everybody's thoughts on that. And then I was kind of not really busy a couple of days after that. The 28th, staff and I met with the Intergovernment Working Group, Scott County, some cities, and Shakopee, Mid-Wacaton Sioux community. Topics, I had my list, but I didn't have to use it because their list coincided with mine. Buffaloes are here in Shakopee, right?
Buffalo are here.
Don't pet the big cows, folks. THC, the ORF timing, how that's how that's working out. What we could probably, I think, if I read that right, Mr. Reynolds, correct me. We could probably expect our services there for 24.
For 24, yes, sir.
And then we don't know if they're going to have a satellite or some new type system between the city and their new facility on 41 toward Chaska. So we'll learn that in 24, I guess. What else did I have? All the cities went over what's happening in their community, and including Mr. Kursky on behalf of Shakopee. Always stuff going on in Shakopee. November 30th, No Escape West End Mall ribbon cutting with Councilor Lara. Very cool concept, isn't it? I mean, it is a pretty cool concept. I wish them all the success in the world. December 1st, went to former Park and Rec Director, thank you and send-off. Told him thank you for all his work and his successes, and I told him I'd make it a point to stop up at his new position as a concerned citizen and make some waves, and then he'll see me and he'll say, you don't even live here, but we'll have some fun with that. December 2nd, downtown tree lighting and display judging. Mayor's choice was Mikasa. I really loved their blow-up bubble and the elves display. It just caught my attention. There was a lot of great displays. The city and SPU had some pretty creative displays too. Nice job, Mr. Reynolds, with yours. I didn't want to feel guilty and biased in the Park and Rec's great display, Mr. Reynolds' unique display, utilities. So I kind of focused myself on non-government entities, and theirs was the coolest. So I really liked it. So that's my report. Mr. Reynolds, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you know, we're currently under negotiations with all three of our unions. We have been notified that our public works unions, the Teamsters, have decided that they have declined our latest offer. I'm hopeful that we can continue to bargain in good faith and come to an agreement, but they have noted their intent to strike, and we'll talk a little bit about that later and what our plans are for that. But I wanted to take the opportunity to thank council, and not only this council but previous councils, for always having your commitment to the employees, and especially when it comes to wages, having us be in the midpoint of our comparable cities. And those comparable cities are Maplewood, Coon Rapids, Lakeville, Roseville, Blaine, St. Louis Park, Golden Valley, Inver Grove Heights, Burnsville, and Savage. And, that commitment has never wavered. It's always been, we want to be in the midpoint of all of our comparable cities, not the greatest, not the lowest, right in the middle. I also want to thank you and the past council for during COVID. I had made the request that we keep all employees employed during COVID. Council was willing to do that, and I sincerely appreciate that, and I know the majority of the employees do as well. We were requested to put a final offer on the table for the Teamsters, and I just wanted to address essentially our offer on the open items as part of that, and we'll have more information on our website coming up in the near future. But essentially, when it came to the open items, what we were looking at were wages. And the city, our offer was 3% for year one, a 3% increase in COLA for year two, a 3.5% increase in year three, a market adjustment for mechanics, because our mechanics were lower than our midpoint of our comparable cities, of 1%, to be added to the mechanic hourly rate in year one of the contract prior to the application of the general wage adjustment. All of those bring us in line with your prior commitments and the commitments that you've made in regards to all employees. We also offered a sixth step to be added to the wage schedule at 3% over the prior step, which would be accessible after 192 months of service, 15 completed years or more, and this step would be added in year one of the contract. And we'll have more to discuss, obviously, in our closed session, but that is where we are on wages. And with that, I am done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Item number 12, other business. Mr. Delaney?
One more thing. I don't think we say it often enough, but we do have a great city staff. I don't know if you just don't hear it from us enough, but I'm always impressed. Anytime we've asked questions or things or whatever, you guys really respond, which is, I'm thankful, and I like to just, on my behalf, say I'm really grateful for incredible members of our city.
Well, I think past councils and this council, we've always tried to create a working environment that was really pleasant. What's the saying that's been around for at least more than 20 years that I've been here? Well-equipped, well-edged, well-trained. We do have top-of-the-line equipment in our departments, and we do offer training and stuff. And so, yeah, we're on a good path.
Yes.
So, any other business?
That's it for me.
If we're going to do item 13, a motion to go into closed session, I would request the motion maker to state the Minnesota state statute that we are utilizing for doing so.
So this whole thing.
Pardon me?
So this whole. Okay. Yep.
Pursuant
yep.
to.
Yep. So.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session according to the Minnesota statutes 13D.03 subdivision B.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilor Contreras, seconded by Councilor Delaney. Mr.
Mr. Mayor, just it is to discuss labor negotiations, and the statute does require you to state the time and place, so it's to be at 8:15 p.m.
15 p.m.
Okay.
in council chambers.
All right. So the motion is to go into closed session to discuss labor negotiations consistent with Minnesota State Statute 13D.03 subdivision B. It is currently 14 minutes after 8 p.m. on December 5th, 2023.
In the chambers.
In the chambers.
The council chambers. Any discussion on the motion? Satisfactory to legal counsel?
Yes.
Thumbs up there. Questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're in closed session.
You'll get us some time.